Rick, how are you?
I'm good, Keith. How are you, buddy?
Man, you look so good. How you been?
I'm good, man.
Good,
I'm
good.
Thank you.
Good. I see you got the blazer on, the tie is off. Were you in court today?
I was in court this morning, and then I had a little setback with some skin cancer, so I had to get that excised.
Okay.
And then I'm here. I'm here to talk about love and life.
Let's talk about it.
Well, you do the love part. I'll do the life part.
All right, sweet. Yeah, I'm not that great at the love part.
That's two of us.
Hey, man, I am, really happy to see you today because it's been a while since we did our last show. It's been maybe like 5 or 6 weeks, man.
It's true. I think we ought to do some more up in Sedona.
That'd be great.
Yeah, like figure on coming up like once a month or something and do a couple of shows.
Oh, absolutely. That sounds great.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, put me down.
All right, good.
All right,
You're in the book.
you. So today's show is going to be on the topic of using or seeing what goes wrong in your life as an opportunity to practice. Practice what? Practice being present, practice being kind, practice is seeing whatever shows up as an opportunity to grow, to be more conscious. What do you think about the topic?
Love the topic, hard to do.
Very hard to do. It's been really good for me to approach life with this kind of mindset. And so where I got the idea for this show, I was listening to a podcast talk by Eckhart Tolle. And so he gave a couple examples of it. And one of the examples that he said was when the cold soup shows up, that's your practice. He says, don't get mad at the server. Don't go off. Just see that as your practice. Now, that doesn't mean not take action, but take intelligent action. Ask for, hey, excuse me, could I have my soup heated? And if they say yes, then it's resolved. If they say no, it's still okay. That's your practice of accepting what is. Then, as he starts his shows off on the internet, he has a little bell to initiate the show. And when he rings the bell, he talks about you could have attachment to something like a bell, right? So the first thing is like the bell is lost, and you suffer because you have become attached to the bell, and then your mind says, but your friend gave you that bell. And then there's more suffering. And then he goes, and the Dalai Lama gave it to her. So even more suffering. And
layers.
Just layers and layers of suffering. But if you see it initially as an opportunity to practice, not being attached to things, to people, to situations, or life showing up a certain way, then in that becomes a lot of freedom, and you diminish or altogether eliminate suffering in that moment.
I think that's a really wild thing to think about. But in the abstract, we can all say, boy, that'd be great. I sure don't want to complain. I don't want to be that person. Most of us feel that way. We're just trying to get along in life and do our thing and not be disturbed by other people. But it's the other people that keep bringing this garbage to me, and I've got to stick up for myself. And that creates that down the road problem of always being dissatisfied and always being on edge and disappointed in other people. The disappointment that we have is really a reflection of ourselves and our inability to accept what is. So what would you say is the first step? Okay, you have the cold soup. What is your first step? What do you try to do when you feel like you're becoming a little bit irritated?
I think the first step is just awareness.
Exactly. So monitoring it.
Absolutely. So for me, I can just feel myself not feeling peaceful. I've worked at it. And a while back, it would take me like 2 or 3 days, and I would be like, man, why am I just like discontent right now? I feel agitated and frustrated. And then I had to think about it, and I would point back to an event or something that didn't go well, or the way that I thought it should go, days ago. But it took me a while to think about it. I had to calm down, the ego kind of receded, and so it created space for me to see it. But when I became really committed, 3 years ago to no longer suffering or doing things that help me be present, be conscious, be loving, be kind, that meant that I had to do things that put me in a place to where I could be open. I could be present. Yeah. And for me, that's getting a good night's sleep, eating well, exercising, For me, those things set the foundation for me to be more aware. When I'm tired, it's hard for me to be aware. I get set off easily. Anything could trigger me, being frustrated, upset, traffic, I mean, you name it. So for me, the key is awareness.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. If you're aware all the time of the things that are irritating you, you have to first examine the feeling that you have. Okay, I'm feeling bad because this traffic is driving me crazy. Or whatever it is that happens to be the thing that you don't like, the way your husband is treating you, or your wife is treating you, or the way your boss is treating you. But the reality is, the more you internalize that and rebel against it, the more suffering there is. So if you could just stop for a moment and say, now wait a second, who's the victim here? Who's the victim here? I am creating this environment for this more or less irritation to take hold, to be fruitful. And if I could just get past that, I wouldn't have that suffering. So I think the idea is you're aware of it, first of all, and then secondly, as Keith says, you take action to correct it. And if you can't, then you have to decide, can I live with this? And now there's a lot of complicated problems that require thinking and working through. But most of the time, if it's like traffic or if it's an insult or you feel like you've been insulted, it's easy just to let it go because you're letting it go with the idea of protecting yourself and not feeling like you have to respond and be at stimulus all the time when other people are making you a certain way.
Exactly. Why don't we both give an example of how it shows up for us? And we'll give an example of maybe when we weren't successful at being aware, and an example to where we've gotten better at it. So typically, this time of year, and it's the winter time here in the U.S., we go on ski trips.
Yeah.
Okay. So we had a ski trip coming up
next week.
Yeah, next week. So normally what I would be thinking about, way ahead, missing the present moment, I'd be thinking about, I gotta get everything packed, more important, is the flight gonna be on time? Is everyone who's traveling in our party, are they going to be at the airport on time? Hopefully no one forgets their ID. Once we get on the plane, will it be on time? I gotta get there early enough to make sure my skis and snowboard get on the plane. When I get there, will it arrive with us? Will our ride be there to take us to wherever we're staying? Like, I got all these things going on. And then it doesn't stop there. It's what about the weather tomorrow? Will the snow be good? Will it, it just never stops. And if one of those things goes wrong, which typically happens because that's how life works.
That's it.
And life is not here to make us happy. It's here to challenge us to grow. And so, but I would go through this and that'd just be a ton of suffering instead of seeing each of those things that I'm concerned about as an opportunity for the practice, to practice acceptance, to practice patience. So the flight gets canceled. What do? Me getting upset, talking to the gate agent about it, giving him or her what for, doesn't solve the problem. The flight is still canceled, but I'm suffering. So how do I be with that? We get there and the snowboards don't show up. How would I handle that? In the past, the way that I would handle is I'd be upset. I'm calling the airline 50 times. Like, I got to pay all this money for the ski trip. How'd I handle it now? I'll go to the rental shop. I'm using a rented board that next day. So those are just one example of dealing with a life situation. And we'll also give an example of dealing with people. So Rick, why don't you give an example of a life situation?
Well, just this morning. So I'm in court, and of course, time is a bully, right? All of us who are working on deadlines, no matter what our occupations are, time is important and deadlines have to be met because otherwise you risk affecting other people. In my job, since I'm a lawyer, if I'm late to court, that could be taken out of my client. The judge could be irritated. I could have a rough day. I could lose maybe part of what I'm trying to argue or advocate for my client. So I'm very mindful of being on time and being in the right place at the right time. Well, this morning, I had a court hearing. The hearing took longer than expected, which sometimes occurs. But I also had an appointment for this dang year, and I show up at the appointment. The doc is 45 minutes late. 45 minutes late, and I just don't like that. I don't like that at all. It's like getting cut off in traffic and somebody flips you off. It's so disrespectful. And I'm thinking, gosh, here I am. I came all the way down from Sedona. This guy's not. Well, it turned out he had an emergency. And even if he didn't, if he was back there eating a hot dog, it wouldn't matter. The idea was I was the guy who had set up this artificial construct that he must be here to be with me when I expect him to be with me. Right. And if he isn't, hell to pay for him. But I did what you said. I just naturally calmed down, took a breath, and thought about, okay, this is an opportunity for growth. I don't like it, I'm not comfortable with it, but there's nothing I can do, so I'm detaching from outcome. And as a result, I just sat and I closed my eyes for a minute. I was in this small little booth, luckily I wasn't naked with that goofy hospital gown on, but if I had been, I still would have done the same thing, which is kind of just breathe and work on my visualization and what I wanted to have happen in my life. The exam took 10 minutes and I was out.
Right.
No problem.
Exactly. And you made it here on
I
time.
made it here in time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So give me one where you've where you've struggled but you've successfully achieved the outcome that you wanted.
With just dealing with people, and people are really, really the best teachers. I mean,
They're the most challenging for sure.
absolutely,
Yeah,
because they can
totally.
talk back,
And people that you like and respect are the ones that you're expecting not to give you any crap.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever crap might be.
Exactly. So just, an example would be for me, I had this expectation that was, it was expectation because we really hadn't agreed upon it, but it was something to do with one of my friends. And we were agreeing upon how we were going to show up in our friendship, and I thought we were pretty dialed in on it. And a couple things happened in which it didn't go that way. And I felt let down, I felt frustrated, but because I've been doing this mindfulness practice, I was really on top of it, kind of like as the observer, just watching the whole thing unfold with the ego.
Oh, good.
And the ego was rising up. I mean, was getting suited up, is putting on a helmet, shoulder pads, is grabbing his weapon of choice. It's about...
And you would be the one who would be combating that. I mean, the ego's going to be fighting you. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the ego is like, no, we're going to war with them.
Yeah, that's a trick.
It's totally,
It's not. It's
totally
against you.
There are no external enemies.
That's right.
Everything's internal. And so, I just kind of like observed it, and I was like, I know what that looks like. It looks like suffering. That's going to be nothing but suffering.
That's so cool.
And so I was able to, because of this practice, and I don't always get it right. I mean, I really don't. I mean, but more times than not, I'm on top of it. And so I was able to really kind of be aware, to rise up in front of my ego, just like, no, we're not taking this outside. We're going to keep this in-house. And I was able to kind of really diffuse the situation and be like, hey, listen, there may be circumstances that I'm unaware of. And even if it is what you're telling me talking to my ego, so be it. Me getting upset about it is not going to change anything. I'm just going to send love to my friend. And it never became an issue. I never brought it up.
That's a wonderful example. I think that we have to start with the idea that when you're arguing with other people not meeting your expectations, what you're really doing is you're saying, you need to be like me, or I can't love you, or I can't have respect for you. It's like, it'd be like having an argument with gravity.
Right.
People, oh man, I really wish I was on the moon because then I could glide along, I could run faster, I could, be a great basketball player because I could dunk, 30 feet high. With no gravity, but the reality is what you have here is what you have, and how other people are is how they are. And you have to have good communication, but at the end of the day, you can't make them do something that you want them to do, and you have to examine your own reasons why you need it.
Exactly.
I don't think that it's healthy for us to go around thinking that we're always going to be pleased or disappointed by anybody else. I think we have to be neutral. But that does raise the issue about what do you do with meaningful communication? In your example, you already had the ground rules set for the relationship, and something happened that kind of skewed that. But then you had a confrontation, or at least I assume you had a discussion about what that was. And once that discussion has taken place, if there's no change, you have to let it go and decide whether the friendship needs to be pursued or not.
Exactly. And in this case, I'll just let it go. Me holding on to it, or me setting all kinds of rules about what the friendship is going to be moving forward, it looks like I'm putting healthy boundaries in place so this person doesn't, disappoint or frustrate me again. But that boundary, that wall that I'm putting up there, is as much a prison of our relationship between us as it is that I'm imposing on myself. I've got to be a certain way now, regarding this person.
Yeah.
And instead, just kind of let that go, man, and just kind of like, just want to hold space, just loving space. They show up however they show up. And then I can choose, how I want to move forward, but I will be not from a place of feeling disrespected or feeling like the friendship rules have been violated, but just from a place of just love and it's all right.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So, well, Rick,
Are we done?
Yeah, unless you got something else you want to add.
I was hoping the buffet would be open. Only had to kill 2 more minutes to get the free food. So.
No, man, no. Buffet's open, but buffet's closed.
Okay.
But yeah, just leaving you guys with this one little thought is whatever goes wrong, or your mind tells you that goes wrong, use it as an opportunity to practice. Once I start to see everything like that, it became this game for me. It became this opportunity to just really kind of grow and to be present, to be aware, the best version of myself. And I use it all the time, no matter what is happening. When something goes wrong that I do not like, I say, okay, this is the practice. And every time I do that, this person didn't pay me on time and they keep saying they are. This is the practice. I'll get a letter in the mail. It's from someone that's threatening from a debt or something like that, that I'm certain that is not justified. That's the practice. I mean, everything becomes the practice. And then it just becomes little opportunities, little classes for you to continue to move forward and graduate a little bit higher level in awareness. Not to be better, because the conscious self, there is no superiority complex going on. Instead, just to be more conscious, more loving, more kind.
And I would add one other thing. That's beautifully said, by the way, brother. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
I would add one other thing, and that is that not only is it important for you to recognize that it's an opportunity for you not to suffer and to observe what's going on, and in spite of it, be calm and not have any upset of your inner peace. But also, it's an opportunity, literal opportunity for you to try another route, to try something else. Especially true in travel, when all of the things happen that you don't want to have happen. There's lots of opportunities to go down different aisles and have more fun. As long as you're willing not to be disappointed. Are you willing to have your expectations changed? Are you willing and open to do that? And I think willingness and openness to receive whatever shows up is a real important trait.
Absolutely. Because the situation, it doesn't give one hoot about you being upset or mad, does it?
Traffic doesn't care. Traffic doesn't care.
That's right. That's right. Rick, thanks for a great show, man.
I love you,
I
buddy.
love you too, man. Thank you.
Thank you.